on Wednesday. Make sure that you understand. Today is the last program for the robot for the UI testing. That's number one. And then the second thing is next week is going to be break, and then week after we are starting a new program, which is test project. A test project is an open source project again, that can help you to do different types of things in testing. What Sumit is going to cover is, if I'm not wrong, test project for UI testing, right? As a next session. Next year he will cover that for API and other testings. But the next, at least I know that the last session, 4 or 5 weeks that we're going to have, starting in 2 weeks, we're going to cover test project for UI testing. Correct, Smith?
Yep. UI testing and some flavor of mobile testing as well.
Perfect. So a lot of people are starting to use this test project. It's kind of quite interesting. And I am in the telecom domain, but even in the telecom domain, we're starting to see a lot of people are starting to use that. It's quite interesting. It would be good for you to at least learn the basics of it, so you can add this in your bag of skills that you have, because end of the day, all the skills that you have is what is going to help you as a future workforce, which is the mission of Testoper community. So that's the second thing I want to say. And the third thing is, of course, if you are interested to join the Testoper project session, please register yourself in the Eventbrite. I would be happy to make sure that I send the right message through the Eventbrite to you guys, depending upon the program changes or anything that happens moving forward. Finally, some of you in this team have, already been participating. One of the flagship programs that we are going to do next year is an open source projects that we are going to do together, right? That can help the community. So if you look at it after COVID, what has happened was, let's take for a minute. Before COVID, we used to do a lot of in-person events, and there is always a connection with the people you meet in person, and you do things in person and things like that, right? Meetup and different programs. But after COVID, what happened was everything moved into virtual, and I just hope come back to the old mode soon, so we can, from the Testoper point of view, we can do the mix of in-person and the virtual programs moving forward. But however, the point is, because everyone is moved into virtual, what we are starting to see is there's a lot of high-level stuff, webinars, seminars are happening, right? A meetup, a lot of high-level stuffs are happening, and every companies which used to not do before, and started doing the virtual events. But all those virtual events are mostly high-level, not detailed level like Codeathon that we do, and the masterclass that we plan to do next year. So one of the thought process of us is we wanted to continue to do that makes a difference, right? A program that trains you the details, not at a very high level. So that would be our focus for the next year, 2021. Having said that, one of the program that we wanted to do in 2021 is we wanted to create something called as a Testoper projects. And we are already kind of putting some kind of a foundation, the requirement documents. Basically, there are going to be 3 projects that we are going to create. One project is building the Testoper portal, right? And then the second project is we wanted to build something that can help the people to select the career path and appear for interview, pitch themselves, and so on. And then the third project that we are focusing on is to help the people to really create a learning path based on the career path that they have chosen. It's not only for the people who are looking for a job, it is also for the people who are employed and underemployed and looking for promotions and things like that, right? The career path is applicable for everyone. So these are some of the projects that we are going to do, like an open source project next year, and the people, whoever wants to contribute on those open source project, will be provided some kind of a work experimental learning certificate, work certificate for contributing and making that particular program successful. So the reason I'm telling you this is next year is going to be, we're going to continue to serve you all in a much better way and more detailed knowledge learning, skills learning than very high level stuff, and in fact more on experimental learning to implement the projects and test the projects, write automation scripts for the projects, develop microservices and those kind of things. So continue to support us and continue to bring your colleagues and friends, and you also continue to support us in both learning programs as well as in the coding and experimental learning programs. So if you are interested, you know how to reach out to us, testoper@testoper.com. So with that, I will stop and hand over the floor to Sumit.
Sure. Thanks, Gal. So let's get started. So today I'll not be talking about Jenkins at all because it's the same process that we have been using from last 3 times. It's the same process, same fundamental, how you set up Jenkins, how you set up a plan on Jenkins, and how do you run your sessions from there. The two part different in Robot Framework is that Robot Framework already comes with a baked in plugin, right? So it makes it much more simpler to implement a Robot Framework execution on Jenkins. What I'm going to talk about today is on the CI/CD side is how do we take advantage uh, of the cloud tools or platforms that are there, and what are the advantages of those platforms, right? And we'll try to execute a couple of scripts on that cloud platform and see does it really help us in any way in terms of running those tests. We can run it through Jenkins. So any CI/CD pipeline that you will choose, one step is that you have to have your own test infrastructure to run that CI/CD pipeline, right? So in the previous 3 sessions, what we did was we set up our own Selenium grid, right? And we put it on the cloud, and we provided that web address or the IP address to our scripts to do a remote execution. But we're gonna talk about today is about the platforms that are available in the cloud that we can utilize instead of maintaining our own Selenium grids, right? The maintenance, though the maintenance is not much, but time and again you might have to upgrade. You might lose some support from the contributors itself who are providing those solutions. And any updates going forward on the grid that is going to happen, you have to uh, be prepared to maintain that grid for your organization, right? In order to avoid that challenge, because you mainly want to focus on creating your test and executing your test rather than uh, maintaining your own test infrastructure, as well as, but there are sometimes if you're not doing any UI testing, uh, it's kind of a mandate at this point that we have to maintain some test infrastructure, right? Uh, because let's say if I'm doing some data testing, there's no solution out there, uh, which is which basically gets accustomed to how I write tests, right? The grid is one way that it only works for execution, right? It is independent of how I write my test, what I do with my test, right? The other tools that are there for other frameworks like API or for data is that you have to write in their own way, right? So even if the tools are available, you have to write on exactly on how they want you to write, right? It's not independent of your test development from your test execution. But what Selenium Grid provides us with is uh, two independent streams, right? One is the test development stream. So you can write your test in Java, you can write your test in Python, you can write your test in JavaScript, you can use any framework, you can use Robot Framework, you can use Cypress. There's a very good framework that has come recently. It's launched, it's created by Microsoft. It's called Playwright. We'll discuss next year on what Playwright is still in not fully loaded at this point. It doesn't take into picture the Selenium framework at all, right? So it directly goes into your browser interactions without taking any kind of advantage of the Selenium framework, right? So it's not a wrapper on top of Selenium; it's an alternative to Selenium, right? We had similar frameworks before. Puppeteer was one, which you can use. Cypress is also one. There are certain limitations on those kind of frameworks, like uh, like Cypress only works on Chrome and Firefox, right? I guess it's only Chrome at this point, right? So there, those are the limitations, because when you start developing an alternative to Selenium, you have to know that Selenium has been around for a while now, right? So it has added all the flexibility and all, though though there are some issues with Selenium, but then it's a mature framework, right? It over the time it has added a lot of features, a lot of additions into how we write tests. Even the Selenium contributors has revamped Selenium into different uh, versions, and out of that uh, Selenium Selenium contribution, right, came spin up a lot of platforms, right? Like Browser Stack, like there are a couple of others as well. One is I'm forgetting the name, but it's pretty big. It does a lot of conferences as well, right? Cross browser testing is one, and then Sauce Labs. Yeah, so that was the name I was forgetting. Sauce Labs is also one of the major player in this segment, right? So if let me share my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Just a second, Sumit. So I see Mr. Greg and Kwang Chong, as well as yeah. So you both of you have joined from your own organizations, Microsoft Teams, I think. Uh, if you want to have your own account for the Testoper community where you can ask questions and collaborate before and after the events, send your personal email ID. We will create an account for you, so you will have your own login password to log in into the Microsoft Teams and collaborate with us. Before and after the programs, right? Just I wanted to let you know. Also wanted to kind of make sure I say it again. Next week, Wednesday, is there's no program. This week we are going to complete this, and then next week is a break, and the week after, the new program is starting, which is on the test project for UI testing, presented by Sumit. I know I am repeating this again just because there were 3 or 4 people joined after I said last time, so I just want to repeat it. Over to you, Sumit.
Sure. Let's see what Sauce Labs does, right? So all these platforms are basically for cross-browser testing, right? And now what they are doing is they are coming up with a lot of uh, mobile platforms as well, right? So what will happen with the mobile platform is that you don't need a real device with you. Uh, when you run the test on these platforms, you will actually be running on a real device behind the screen. The idea is that if you have, let's say, you want to do a mobile testing on different phones and different version of operating system on that phone, you then you would have to have those mobile devices with you, right? This takes away all that difficulty of setting up infrastructure, right? So if you look here, a lot of frameworks, they have integrated a lot of frameworks alongside, right? This is Appium, this is Test Project, this is Selenium, this is Mocha or something, right? Uh, so if you look here, the platform, so you will see the features. You can do cross-browser testing. You can have a real device cloud. You can do visual testing. You can do Appium, Selenium, Espresso, uh, right? And all those platforms, they integrated with themselves, right? So Playwright, this still in beta. As I was talking about this platform, this is a newer platform. So all these platforms are exclusive of Selenium, right? So they don't rely on Selenium framework uh, to create tests. So Test Cafe is more uh, they started with API testing and now they're moving into UI testing, still not very mature enough. Uh, Cypress is one. Cypress is one of the favorites uh, for developers because they can write directly in JavaScript in their native language on the front end where they're developing. Again, it runs on Chrome or Firefox. Playwright is going to be big, because what I think is that they really have set up the framework very neatly in a way that people can use it, and they are creating different SDKs for Playwright. So it will become a language independent framework as well, right? Right now they started with JavaScript, but now I was looking at it yesterday and I saw that they have a SDK on Python as well, right? So it's good, and they can do Chromium engines, Firefox engines, and WebKit, uh, uh, which is your Apple. Chromium engine is what, if you guys are not aware, the Internet Explorer is not no longer uh, being supported, and Edge is now moving to Microsoft Edge is now moving to the Chromium engine, which is the same engine what Chrome uses as well, right? So any browser relying on the Chromium engine will be able to execute the test. So Edge is now not using their own engine anymore. They have done away with all those things which they were developing, and now they're relying on the open source Chromium engine, right? So these tools are really good in terms of if you don't want to create your own infrastructure, or you guys don't want that some of the infrastructure that you guys need, and it's really hard to come by in an organization. Like if I want to run on 100 different mobile devices with different settings, it's going to be really difficult, right? And now they're coming up with a different additional feature, which is basically uh, your visual testing, which is makes great sense, because it's on the same line as Apply Tool Eyes. The Apply Tool Eyes, uh, so Apply Tool Eyes is who are the one who started this visual automation, right? A lot of companies use them. Our company uses this as well. But now, because we don't have the subscriptions to Sauce Labs or Browser Stack, right? So uh, what it helps us achieve is create your visual representation and test, right? So it does away with all the validations that you guys will be putting in the code. So the first form factor uh, that it helps in is in reducing your code lines, right? Uh, it really is a uh, great addition to any test uh, if the tests are static, right? Not too dynamic, right? So if your page changes every time, these validations might not help you too much, because what they do is they will capture your screen, they will put it they will upload, so your script will basically capture that screen and upload it on Applitools cloud, right? And in Applitool clouds you will already have a baseline to match with, and even one pixel of your difference will get noticed and will mark it as a fail, right? So if you have a lot of dynamic content, it makes the maintenance that much challenging as well, right? So what happens is, let's say my numbers are changing every time I log in. I need to ignore that section, right? If I don't ignore that section, every time it will be a fail, right? Because that number is changing. So it does provide you with certain tool sets where you can modify your baselines and then run tests real fast, because they have a parallel runner coming that are there. They have a parallel grid, so they can run 100 cross browser tests in 10 seconds, right? Uh, which makes sense uh, in terms of if you are going to validate from that perspective. But then these are not the actual runs that is happening. It's basically uh, making your screen change uh, different in terms of running those cross browser tests, right? With different resolutions, with different engines, with different browsers and versions of those browsers, right? So you can go ahead and take a look at it and see if this is something that you would really like. So this is one of the examples of your uh, implementation of eyes, how easy it is to implement it inside your code. Again, this goes, you can find different examples here. So if I go to Selenium Python, I can use this in the robot framework to do those kind of checks, right? And again, it has an ultra fast grid demo where you can define that you what kind of resolution you want to run on, and then you basically does those checks on all the mentioned browsers and and uh, all the different resolutions, right? And they currently have the local running capability as well. Again, you can define whatever you want in terms of how you want to test inside your code, right? Now, there's one more platform that does the same thing, almost the same thing as Browser Stack. So if I go to Browser Stack, mm, so let's go to Browser Stack. It's app and browser testing made easy. Again, it does the same thing. You have different, you basically what you can do is you have an interactive mode where you can spin up your APK or your iOS app here on a real device, but you're doing it through your browser, right? And you're not actually holding the device, right? But what you will be able to achieve is you will be able to view your uh, application in a mobile device without actually having that mobile device, right? So that gives you a little bit of freedom in terms of not setting up your infrastructure and getting those kind of functionality from these platforms, right? And then uh, if you look at the device coverage, you will see how many devices they support. These are all on Android. These are all on iOS. So basically, you can go with different iOS versions. So let's assume you're running an app on mobile device, and tomorrow you know that uh, there is going to be, they launched iPhone 12 yesterday, right? Uh, and you would need to buy iPhone 12 to actually test your application, right? But now you don't have to do that. You will find the latest versions here and with different iOS platforms as well, right? So the versions of the iOS as well. Similar with Android, right? So they're running on Galaxy S20, S20 Plus. They're running on 10 version. Uh, Pixel 4 is running on Android 11. So all those different kind of things you can do without actually having to do it in a real device, right? And then it has automate section, which is basically your Selenium testing. Uh, and then you will have your, let's say, Windows. So this is what you will get, right? Windows 10 64-bit. These are the supported Windows platform without actually having to have that machine, right, in order to run or look at your application inside those, right? And these are the different versions of Firefox, Chrome, and IE, and Edge that you can utilize. How you will utilize it, I'll show you one example of that, and then uh, you have uh, different flavors of Cypress on what other things you can run. So Selenium is one framework, JS testing is one, Cypress is one. So similarly, you can do that, right? And then it has Percy, right? So Percy is what is kind of visual testing. So if you look here, you will see that I have logged in here, and Percy is the same as Apply2Lies, but not as matured as Apply2Tools. Percy was a separate company. Browser Stack bought it, but definitely a great addition to your Browser Stack platform, right? So if I go to the actual execution of this, so if I want to see how I can utilize this. So if I go to just Python and see run your first lint test, a great tutorials that are listed there, getting started with, you can use anything, right? You can use language or framework. You can use, currently they don't have robot framework, but it's a similar implementation as they have in Python. So if you look at Python, this is what you will do. Uh, You will install Selenium, run your first test, and from here you can basically select your iOS and devices or whatever you want to select. So I want to select Windows 10. I want to run my test on 86 beta, and I want to select this resolution, right? Now, from that, it will derive those capabilities, right? So these are the desired capabilities of Selenium that you can use uh, to insert in your script and run those executions, right? So if I go to the script, so let's see. Last time we made the script, right? Now I want to change and I want to run it on browser stack. What I need to do, right? So the first thing I need to do is if you look here, right? Every time what I'm doing is the first step I'm doing is going to home. So let's see what is go to home, right? Let me increase my font size.
Kadir, this project is available in files, right?
Sorry.
The project is available in files, right?
Yes. You mean this project?
Yeah.
Yeah, this project is already uploaded on Testoper track. So if you go here,
In GitHub you up. Okay. So yeah.
so
Sorry,
if you
pardon.
so if you look here, exercise, and this is the folder, Robert Framework, exercise one. So if you go here, all the files are uploaded here.
Okay.
If you want, I can send you the link. So
No, no, no. It's all good.
okay,
Thanks.
awesome,
Sorry.
awesome. No problems, no problem. So the same way, you can fetch those details from here and then put it there. So if I go here, so every time what I'm doing is uh, I'm going to home, right? So what is go to home? So go to home, when I highlighted, every time I use go to home as the start of my test. And go to home is starting the app, and title should be invalidating the title, right? So what is start app, right? So if I go to start app keyword, if I go to keywords.com, it says start app, and here I had listed whatever it is, right? So open browser, URL, and the browser name, right? But now what I've done is I've added the URL. I've added the remote URL as well for it to execute, or where to execute this open browser URL, right? And then the desired capabilities, right? So let's look at what do we have in remote URL and desired capabilities. So what I'm doing is I'm opening a browser, this browser, on a remote URL with these capabilities, right? And where have I mentioned all these things is in this, right? So if you look here, these are my desired capabilities, which is basically saying my operating system should be this, my OS version should be this, my browser should be this, uh, and my browser version should be this, and my name should be this, and resolution should be this, right? Now, if you look above, this is where I've mentioned it in terms of what I need. I need Windows 10. I want to run it on Chrome version. I want the latest beta version. I want to name my test as sample test, or I can say demo test, right? And then resolution is 1920 by 180, right? And this is the remote URL I'm going to hit, right? Now, what this URL is, where I got this URL is from here, right? Which is the command executor. So if you select all the details here, this is a one-time activity where you need this detail, right? So what this detail tells me is uh, that this is my username and this is my uh, the key details that are required in order to basically hit browser stack platform and authenticate there, right? So it exactly knows that this is what I'm trying to do. And this is my identity of hitting the browser stack hub, right? Now, if I run this test, so let's run login test 3, where we are opening a browser with login page uh, with login user this and password this. So we'll run it 2 times, one with demo username, demo password, and one with admin, right? So let's try to run this. I'm going to start my test. So if I go to the browser stack and go to the activate tab, the automate tab, refresh it, I should be able to see an execution that is happening, right? So previously all were sample test. Now I changed the name to demo test. So this is what it is happening, right? Now it will give me a step-by-step detail on what it is doing, right? So if you look on the right-hand side, it's giving me details on what the script is trying to do, right? Right. So it keeps populating it till the execution is complete. Now this execution, because we are running 2 tests, so the second test has started. Now this test is completed and we can see the execution video from here itself, right? So if you look here, it should go to the screen size that we expected. And then it will add the details. Now the screen size, the validation really comes in handy when we are doing a visual validation. That's where we need a lot of different resolutions and tests if those are actually what we expect as baselines, right? Now both the tests are completed, one with demo and the other one with admin. And you can look here the details on what it exactly did, right? So it did send a sequence keystroke to an element admin and then put it admin in the password section, right? And then it got the URL and then it validated the URL. So this gives you a little bit details. You can find different console logs, network logs, or Selenium logs. So if I curl this command, I should be able to fetch what the logs are, right? So if I just okay. So wherever you can run your curl command, you can actually run those. Because these are REST API logs, so you can fetch those details from the browser stack itself, right? All right. You can define how many parallel threads you want to run. So you can I can run maximum of five sessions in parallel. And then it will give me a queued value as well, where I can exactly see how many are actually queued uh, as a request, right? And then I can basically look at all these. I don't need to maintain any infrastructure. I just change the details. So let's assume I'm running here on Chrome 86 beta. I want to change it. I want to run on Firefox. I can just change the details here, or I can add a different desired capability saying that this is for Chrome and this is different desired capabilities. And in the test, I can data drive those tests, uh, providing different uh, values in terms of uh, browser and any desired capability that I want to run on, right? So what you're gonna do is the first step is that you're gonna create multiple desired capabilities here, depending on what you want to run, and give your desired capabilities a name. And when you are calling those from the demo test uh, and start app, which is here, you can basically create multiple start apps. You can say start app Chrome, start app Firefox, start app Chrome 86 or something like that, right? So which uniquely identifies what browser you're running on. And then you can use these values as data driving in your test so that you exactly know that you're running on all the browsers that you have listed, right? So this makes you the central place where you're listing all your browsers and your different configurations of desired capabilities. But then when you're running the test, you're not changing your test workflow or your keyword workflow You're basically putting these browsers on top of those uh, keywords or test, and then you're executing from that perspective. Any questions till now?
Hello, Sumit. Can you please show it again how you ran the test from Python to browser stack or any, like,
Sure,
just
sure.
briefly?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
So
thanks.
I'll show you one more time. So if you really want to see how do you want to execute your test on browser stack, go here, right? Go to their own documentation and then change your values from here, right? So let's say I want to run on Android, right? I want to run on Samsung. Yeah, that's not gonna work. So I'm
Can,
running on
can
Windows
you
10.
share can you share this the URL, please?
Yep, sure. But the first thing that you need to do is you uh, need to log in and register for the free trial, right? Before you can actually see those.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So once you do that, let's say I want to run on 44, right? Let's not run on Chrome at all. Right? Let's run on Edge. So what you see here is the details of the desired capability, right? So what desired capabilities means is what are the configuration parameters you want to execute on. I want to run on an operating system which has a version 10. Uh, Operating system is Windows. So I want to run on Windows 10 with the resolution of this. The browser should be Edge and the browser version should be latest. And these are the capabilities that I really want to uh, see or execute my test on, right? So I'm not running on Chrome. I am running on Edge. So I'm running Edge. Browser version is latest, right? Let's keep everything and say this one is Edge test, right? So what I've done is I've created all these details and I created a desired capability, right? Now, if you look here, all our dollars and this is and, right? The reason this is and is that this is a dictionary object, right? What dictionary object means is that it will be in this format, right? So anything that you want as a variable of dictionary object in a robot framework, you need to put an and on top of it, right? So all these values, and so if you look at OS version is this, and the value is of OS version is 10. So if you look here, this is exactly how it will read, right? So it basically created this, but it did it in a reader friendly fashion, right? This is how Robot Framework implements dictionary, right? And then I'm giving all those details here, right? Resolution, browser version, name, browser, OS version, and OS. Now, when all these desired capabilities are completed, what I did was I went to keyword and I opened the browser with this URL, and I'm opening this URL on a remote server, right? So the remote URL is here, which is basically this. And then I'm giving the desired capabilities of what I've mentioned earlier, right? So the desired capabilities is basically what I decided on what I want to run on. Now I change it to Edge and the latest. So let's run it one more time and see if uh, it is running on Edge or not. Right? So if I go here now, it started executing on Edge test, right? So it's uh,
Yeah, but where is the connection between our test to the browser stack? Through these desired capabilities?
Yes. So no. So the connection is through remote URL.
Uh,
If you look here on the keywords, right? So if you look here, this is what is making the connection. So the remote URL is what I am executing my test on. It's the same with Selenium Grid. So if I'm spinning up my own Selenium Grid, I need to provide a URL, right? A host to basically make the connection. It's the same way the host is being provided by a browser stack, which is basically telling me that this is what will make the connection. And the authentication is embedded in this URL, right? So this is my username and this is my API key,
okay, yeah.
right? So what is happening is that this is helping me uh, create that connection, and then desired capability. Rest of them are desired capabilities, which basically allows me to run with these configuration, right?
Yeah, same way we can run in Source Lab as well, right? With
Right,
providing.
right. So it's the same thing as Sauce Lab. The only thing different is that there are different pricing mechanisms, different different ways of doing it, right? The basic fundamental still remains the same. Even the Sauce Labs will allow you to use a single URL with embedded authentication, or you can actually set it up differently and then hit the URL with those details, right? But Sauce Labs uh, has a different pricing model. Browser Stack has a different pricing model. And there are certain differences with the platforms that they provide, like the real cloud devices. So they might have a little more mobile devices than browser stack, uh, and little more faster execution uh, than browser stack, or vice versa, right? I'm not comparing them. I'm just saying that there are certain not fundamental differences, but operational differences that makes you select one or other, right? There is one more uh, platform which is a little cheaper than these two, right? So this is one other example, which is again, all all of them are not different. It's just that how they implement certain things, right? Visual testing, all the three platforms actually run it a little bit differently, right? So so basically all of them provides the same feature. It's just the operational differences that they have, and in terms of and also the number of devices and different variations of those devices. It's what makes you select one from other. But any of the three will really work well with the testing, until unless you're really looking for a specific device to run your test on, right? And it generally covers 90% of the market, uh, which is more than enough for the test to run, right?
Hi Sumit, this is Abdul.
Yeah.
How about the Amazon form? Have you used the Amazon form? Amazon,
Uh,
Google has.
oh, is that something like they came up earlier with the Amazon device farm?
Yes, yes, that's right. Amazon device form.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not that great, but
Okay.
because what I will say is that Amazon device farm is a little complicated, and if you're already in the AWS ecosystem, then this works really well.
Okay.
But if not, then it becomes a little trickier to implement. It's still the same, but then when you look at it, there's not many SDK integrations,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
Uh, so that's one big challenge that AWS Device Farm has, and that's why I don't think it also has a lot of real devices as well, right?
Yeah.
Uh, they so if I go to device list,
Mm.
it has some, but very limited, right?
Yeah, I agree. You're true.
Right, and what I've when I was using this device farm, this device farm was basically only using uh, a live manual testing, right? They
Yeah.
didn't have anything to automate, but now they have come up with that automation. But again, they're very limited in a lot of things.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, if I have all these excellent platforms, I wouldn't go to device farm.
Okay.
Device farm was good when nothing was there, right? But now tons of platforms are already there.
That's right. Thank you.
So, Sumit, one more question related to our previous execution test.
Hmm.
So every time I need to execute, whenever I need to execute, I need to manually edit the URL and everything,
No,
right?
no,
The
no, no. So
configuration.
no, 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 no. So if you look here, this will remain consistent. So this is one-time activity. It won't change until and unless you are changing your API key. This won't change, right? So the URL you don't need to change. And what you need to do is, in order to make it much simpler, is so I will write this as these are my desired capabilities of Chrome, right? And I wish to further provide details on this is that I can do say version 86, Windows 10, right? Now, if I want to do something differently, I will say just say not on Windows 10, but on Windows 8, right? So when I write my test, when I call keywords.robot here uh, and see the test level, I can basically data drive that and create startup as an argument, right? So my keyword will have an argument which will have the desired capabilities, right? And when I'm running my test, I can data drive those tests by providing those arguments, similar to this, right? Similar to this. So I can just provide one parameter, which is desired capabilities, and I can provide those desired capabilities on top of my test as an argument, which says that uh, let's run this on 1, 2, 3, 4 browsers, right? There are other ways you can achieve this, but this is on the Robot framework. You can also create your own function where basically you are uh, driving those desired capabilities and then starting the app. So you have your configuration listed here. So you'll exactly know that all the tests will run on all these browsers and all these configurations, right? So the best way is to do it from the library, create your own desired capability function where whenever a test runs, so this basically will be your setup function, right? So whenever your test run, it will look into the setup function and see how many browsers it needs to run on. And then you can run it on this parallelly, all the 4 browsers, right? So you have a parallel thread running of 5 threads that you have. So your pricing will vary on how many parallel runs you will need, but then I can run 5 tests in parallel on all the same test on 5 different browsers. So it is going to be a parallel test, so it will take the same amount of time as one single test.
Mhm. Or we can write all desired capabilities according to our browsers which are in our scope, and we can comment when we need to run, right?
Correct, correct. What I would say is create a function, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in the library. So you don't have to put a lot of configurations, change or comment and on and off again and again. So what I will do is I'll create multiple functions, right? Let's say desired capabilities dev, right? So for dev, I would need to run on these browsers, right? So I will list all those desired capabilities in there, right? So when I call that function, all the browsers that are listed in the dev environment will run, right? Similarly, I'll create a new function for prod. If you want to segregate further, you will decide on, let's say, uh, billing portal, billing on dev, run on these desired capabilities, right? That's the easiest way to do it. Other way to do it is you create when you're driving your setup, you can basically create multiple desired capabilities, and then you put all those desired capabilities under one file, right? If you're putting it under a different file, sorry. So if you're putting it under different files, you only select the file of desired capabilities that you want to run on. And you can pass that as a parameter in Robot Framework. So right now, if you look here, I'm passing uh, I as an parameter. I can create a new parameter saying D, which is the desired capabilities. I can just mention that file, and all those desired capabilities that are listed there will run accordingly. And I can put that in the setup function itself, right? So I don't have to run all the put those desired capabilities in every test. I just put it in the setup, and I know that if these tests are running with these parameters, that means it's going to select all these desired capabilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks. And one more thing is, how can we, let's say I want to do some hands-on on this browser stack and source labs or apply size. So, but it has some limited time, right, for
Right,
trial period, like 30 days or maybe
right.
45 days. So how can I best utilize that time to and give like more hands and get the more hands on? Like, what is your advice?
Uh, I would say the best advice is that you take the trial period, and if you're not able to finish your work in that trial period, uh, email them and ask them for an extension of the trial period. They will happily do it.
Mhm. Because in parallelly we need to learn and then practice, right? So it will
Correct,
take
correct,
time and then it will expire,
correct.
right? So
Yep. The other way is that you create multiple.
emails, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I wouldn't recommend that, because then uh, it doesn't change anything, but then it's not fair to the company, right? So it's better
Mm-hmm.
to just email them and ask them for extension. They will happily do it.
Mm-hmm.
So what
Okay.
I've done is I've asked for an extension for 3 months, and I got it, right?
Mhm. And sometimes they also uh, ask for the marketing, right? So let's say they assume, right, we are
Yep.
using it for our company and then
Correct, correct.
for.
So you can do that, but right now, like I am using it. It's my trial period. I attended one of the webinars, and they said that if you attend this webinar, you'll get our tool set, including Percy, for free for 30 days, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
No problems.
Hey, Sumit, we are eight, so how much more?
No, I am done. I'm done. I'm done.
Okay, there are some questions.
Sure.
Uh, if you want to look it up in the chat.
Sikuli
Before,
library. Yeah. There's a question there that is, are there any drawbacks of using Sikuli library? Yes, there are. And depending on what you're doing, but the challenge with SQL is that you have to maintain everything in local, right? All your images that you want to click on, uh, especially SQL is being used when I use Seculi when I was automating a mobile game, right? Now the challenge with that was because even with Appium, there were no coordinates because it was on Unity platform, right? Uh, Seculi, what it does is it basically looks at the image that you have stored and it looks for the same image in your device and then click on it, right? Or your Windows app, right? And click on it. It's very hard to maintain. The only drawback of SQL is that you have to continuously keep changing your benchmarks, right? Or your elements that you want to click on. And then the validation also becomes a little difficult because then you have to replace all those files in your local. Now, the challenge with Seculi again is when you move to the CI/CD pipeline, uh, you have to have a central server where everything is stored. So you will fetch that the files from that server, right? And it's going to slow your execution a lot. And and sometimes what happens is when you're running on a different platform, the images don't align together. What I mean is the basically your uh, resolution matters a lot, and if it doesn't match, it will not click on it. So again, for different resolution, you have to create different baseline for it to click on. So those are the biggest drawbacks of Seculi. Is that good enough, Greg?
Yeah, he said thanks. Greg, I don't see that you have the Testoper Teams account. You should probably use it to ask such kind of questions after the program as well to Sumit. Guys, one another successful program that we completed today, Robot Framework for UI. Thanks a lot, Sumit, for taking a lead and having this completed in a more successful way. Looking forward to every one of you attending our next program starting in 2 weeks. Next week is off again. Please remember. Anyways, I'll try to log in and make sure I'll tell the people who did not listen and join. But next week, 21st, we don't have any program. It's more or less like a break. And 28th onwards, we are starting our last program for the year, Testoper projects. And I'm looking for every one of you to, test project. I'm looking every one of you to join and benefit from that last program and continuously support us for the years to come. Excellent. For those have been attending the program, have a attendance more than 60% for this year. It would probably become a little bit strict next year. We are creating a certificate of attendance. Those who have attended, more than 60% of the session, you will be getting a certificate of attendance. And normally we don't send it by email and things like that. We put it inside our teams, inside the Codeathon channel, all the certificates. So you can actually go and grab yours and put it in the LinkedIn post or whatever to advertise yourself that you are a continuous learner and future workforce. Okay, that's from my end today. Sumit, if you don't have anything, we can close the call.
All right. Thank you, everyone. If there are more questions, you can ask in this channel, and I'll try to answer as soon as possible.
Yep. And also in the Codeathon channel. Just put
Yep.
@Smith. He's always active in Teams, so he'll respond. Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful evening. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks for the test project session. Bye-bye.
All right. See you guys. Bye-bye.